Hey everybody, this is Elise and welcome to another session of FemPower Uncut and Unfiltered Conversation with Strong and Powerful Women. Today I have Jill Hendrickson with me and we were having such a wonderful conversation earlier on about watering your message. Now those of us who are entrepreneurs, who are jumping from niche to niche would actually get it. And if you actually have a job and you're jumping from job to job, you will actually totally get it too. So, and I really want to talk to you and talk to Jill about making huge changes or experiencing changes, or how do you handle changes in this particular time, because we just got eclipse season, and yes, I'm so upset that we didn't get the eclipse in Singapore, but five planets are in retrograde right now, which means the energies are completely going crazy. The planet's going crazy, the politics, the economics is really going crazy as well. And it's a reflection of our own internal journey, and I've gone through massive changes, and so did Jill. So why is it important that we have this conversation with Jill? Because for a long time she nailed down her niche, which is helping people write books. You know, she was a journalist, and then now suddenly she told me, like, okay, I'm going to change my thing. And what better time for us to have this conversation about change? So without further ado, Jill, why don't you tell us more about you first?
Yeah, well, it's true. I was helping people with their writing, and I have a huge, I've been teaching. I was a journalist. I've written books. I was teaching people how to write their books. I teach writing at a university. So to move a little bit away from that was like, why am I doing that? Because that's my skill, and I've put in decades to learn that. And so it's not that I won't be doing that, but I was feeling something really bubbling up within me, especially like over the summer. It started, I mean, it's been there for a while, but I really felt it strongly starting in the late spring and then moving through summer. And I really needed to take the time to explore that. It was, what was it? Where am I supposed to land? What's going on? What should I do? And, you know, I think it's like you said, a lot of people can relate to this idea of jumping around from job to job or niche to niche. And what I realized, I sat down and I wrote my own story again. And I wrote, it took me, first it was like 30 pages, and then I cut it down to 17 pages. And I was talking about it from when I was a journalist to the whole journey, going through divorce, moving from Japan to New York to California, and then becoming writing books, becoming a coach, and then finally what it came up to. And this may sound really funny, but I had done a writing retreat in Bali. Love it. I thought that was like the pinnacle because I loved doing it. And I came back, and right after I came back, Wonder Woman came out. And I went to see Wonder Woman. Have you seen it?
Not yet.
Well, I went to see it, and for some reason, it just really moved me. And I went back, and I think I saw it 8 times, and I'm not done. And so I would sit there in this movie, and I was just like, I would come home and I'd go like, why did that move me so much? What was it about it? So I started kind of analyzing it and then looking at my life. And just to sort of cut a story short, you know, in the end, it had to do with power, my own power. And, you know, the movie's partly about her power. And there was Japan, I had to put that out in the movie. And so I was like, well, what am I doing with my power? You know, and then it dawned on me that part of this was when I go out and talk about what I do and share it with people, that I wasn't really wanting to do that much. I felt reluctant. I didn't really like standing up and even talking about it. So I knew there was something wrong with it. And then I would see this in other women when I would go to networking events. It's like, why don't they come across more strongly? What is it that's not attractive, you know? And it had to do with, you know, then I landed on the term of watering down your message. Why are you watering down your message, or why are you watering down your life? Are you really feeling strongly or passionately about what you do? And are you living your life that way? Or are you just kind of like getting by and are frustrated or bored? And I was starting to feel frustrated and bored with, you know, what I was doing with only the writing. So it was telling me something, and I had to listen to it. And what I realized was that, you know, you really land on what it is that you want to do for that time, because it can always change and develop.
So
but unless you really land on it, yeah.
So we talked about it earlier, like sometimes we feel almost guilty leaving that passion that at that moment was like, oh, and then we refuse to move forward.
But you have to go with the feeling, because if you continue down the road of something that you were passionate about but you're not anymore, you're not going to come across as attractive when you want to offer it to people, probably. What do you think?
Yeah, and one of the great signs that you talked about was boredom. Like I got bored.
Yeah, if you're bored, other people are going to be bored with that too, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of need to stay with whatever your inner guidance is directing you to do, because that's the thing that's fresh, and people like that feeling of freshness,
So let me ask you a question. So how about those people? Like for me, it's like I know what I'm doing, but then it's so hard to describe what I do. Is that part of watering down the message?
Well, I don't think it's that you're watering it down, but unless you can say it in a way that's clear enough, then they're not going to hear it and they won't understand it. So I think what you're talking about is it's not that you're watering it down, but you haven't gotten clarity on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the watering down, and maybe that's part of it, it has to do, I think, a little bit with confusion. Because until we're really clear, we're still a little bit confused even ourselves.
Yeah, what about like I'm really clear about the process. Like now I told you I changed and I want to do like soul work, like past life, reading the past lives and soul retrieval work. I'm really clear on the process. But if I would totally go to the networking session, 95% of the people are totally not spiritual. And if you actually tell, oh, I can read past lives and I can do a soul retrieval for you, I'll probably freak them out and like they're totally like just shut down, right?
Well, but you know what? What you could do is when you're talking to them, just ask them, like, say they're, I don't know, what's a topic what could they be? They're a banker. What are they? What are these people?
Yeah, perhaps like entrepreneurs. They run their own business, like cafe owners, like you said, insurance agent, with real estate people. We always meet these kind of people in networking sessions.
Well, so just to be really brief about it, I mean, you could just even say, I help people make money. Then they might get curious, and it's like, well, how do you do that? Well, because I can delve into these things about you that you probably don't know. Well, how do you do that? Well, I work with, have you ever heard of the Akashic Record? No, what is it? I mean, at least that draws them into a conversation. So it's kind of like, I guess, the thing of meeting them where they are.
Yeah. So would that be part of like watering down your message?
Yeah. Because I think in that case, that does make sense. If you're out there trying to talk about the Akashic Records to people that don't understand what it is, it's very out there and flimsy, whereas it needs to just be kind of brought in more tightly.
Yeah. I realized because I actually, like you, I was bored, and then I changed my topic and I talked about the process. I talked about this, and then people totally don't get it until I said, you know what, my client made $1,000 the next day after she did a soul reading with me, and then boom, people get it.
That's it. Yeah. I think people go, they get glazed eyes when we start talking about the process. They don't care about the process. They want to know what the end result is. If they're going to get
for us, when we are so passionate about our process, because this is our signature system, and then it's like you just rave about your own system. Do you know what I mean? Like you just rave about the thing. But I guess you just simply can't, because like you said, you got to meet people at where they are. Otherwise, you just completely miss. You're not talking about even missing the money, but you're just completely missing out on helping people.
Yeah, because we're so close to it, and we know the lingo or the ins and outs of it, and we've done the journey. But for a lot of them, that doesn't make any sense to them.
Yeah.
They just want to know if you can help them.
Yeah, another thing that we talked about was, about watering down your message was, like an example from my case was jumping from just niche to niche to just within the same industry, right? Like, I mean, the spiritual community, the coaching community, but the variety is just massive. Even within real estate, right? You can do rental, you can do commercial. It's just massive. So I was jumping from niche to niche to niche to niche, and then I'm wondering, I was sharing with you why. Maybe you can shed a light on why this happens too. I'm sure people can relate to this as well. Why are we jumping from like crystal healing and to Reiki and into this and into that? And I'm thinking there are some people who are in the same industry for 10 freaking years. They don't change, maybe slightly variations, but they're making a lot of money out of it. And then I'm thinking maybe perhaps if I could stick to one niche, I could be making a lot of money like this and not wasting time trying to figure myself out. I could use that time to help other people and make money at the same time. You know what I mean?
I think it has to do with the fact that we think creatively. We're artistic in a way. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think one of the ways around it is instead of jumping from niche to niche to niche, it's pick something that can be the doorway that brings them in. And once they're there, depending on that person, you could use a variety of things, that would work on them. But there has to be like one thing that gets them in. Otherwise, they're going to be confused. Right?
Right.
Does that kind of make sense?
It does, but when you're like jumping from, say, love coaching to soul work, the doorway is so different, right?
So in that case, maybe just pick the one that you like the best, because certainly in love coaching, you can bring in the soul work, right? And in soul coaching, there's got to be a lot of love.
Yeah. I think that's where it's like the passion that you talked about, the passion. It makes so much sense to you, but your passion doesn't make sense to people on the outside.
Yeah.
Is this part of the watering down your message too?
Yeah. And so we talked about, before we came on air, we talked about simplifying, simplicity. That's something that I'm very interested in now. Not complicated, simple. And that relates to the message also, right?
Right.
A simple message. Yeah, a simple message lands. That's what people will hear. And it's like we were saying, you get into all these different realms, like the spiritual realm, and there are like a million things that you could work on. And we love it because we're curious and it's fun.
Yeah.
But not everybody needs to know all of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, and talk about this simplicity. Like, let's just take Marie Folio business, because we all know her, right? She only launches B School once a year. She does a ton of videos every single week. And then for us, we look on the outside like, oh, I want that business. I want that 7-figure business. But yet, when you actually think about this, the 7 figures, it's not that exciting, even though we think it's exciting, because if you really want it, you would have gotten it, right? So why do you think there is such a craze about this 7-figure business thing? That got me and it got you as well, I'm sure. But then now you're saying, what did you say just now? What did you tell me?
Yeah, well,
like what, you said, why do I need 7 figures now?
yeah. I know that's something that's changed for me. I'm not attracted to that right now. I think people fall in love with the 7 figures because they think they're not thinking of what the money itself. They're thinking of what they think it's going to bring them. The truth is, I mean, we all know this. If you're not happy right now, having $1 million isn't going to make you happy. You'll just be an unhappy millionaire. And you'll find something, then you'll worry about losing your money or you won't know how to manage it. I mean, it's true. So right now, I'm just happy. Just making a good living right now, doing what I love, sounds really nice. And I firmly believe that as I do that, I'll be moving towards that. That'll come if it's supposed to, and it'd be nice, and it will. But it's not like something that drives me right now.
So I'm what drives you right now?
My curiosity and being happy and healthy and serving people.
I think this term of happiness is simple, but yet difficult.
I think actually happiness is simple. And people complicate it.
Yeah.
We were talking about this, how, that people think that money's going to bring them all this stuff. What people are really looking for is peace and freedom, right? So if you're feeling peaceful and content and you have your freedom, it really doesn't matter how much money you have. You could do more with it, but if you don't have if you have the money and you don't have peace and freedom, who cares?
So what we're saying, we're not saying that money is not important. Yes, we love the money. We love what money can do on our behalf. like what it brings. But I think what you're saying is we are giving money away, giving power away. Can't even talk properly. Giving our power to money that creates this unhappiness.
We're giving it a meaning that
Yeah.
doesn't have that meaning.
Right. Right. Right.
And the more unhappy you are when you think about it, you're creating more of a separation between you and even ever getting it. Because we have the wealth inside of us. We have the potential is always there. And the more we make it, I don't have it, so I have to chase after it. It's like a mirage.
I don't have it intensifies.
Yeah, it's like the mirage that keeps receding into the distance. If you know that it's already inside of you and that potential's there and you can get it just as much as anybody else can, you can take your time and relax, and you will probably get there quicker than if you're in this mad, frantic rush and unhappy.
I was going to ask you, so why the rush? Why do people have so much rush? I mean, for me, I feel the same way. Like, I feel like I have a need to rush things.
I would say don't, because what happens when you're in a rush? You trip and fall. Lots of stuff happens when you're in a rush. What is the rush?
Yeah,
really,
exactly. So now, I feel like when we were coaching together in the program, there was so much rush because that was the energy. Rush, 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 rush. And then you train your mind to be in this rush, 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 rush energy. Like, I need to get there, I need to compete. And then now it's like I need to retrain my psyche, you know? Like, if I feel like I'm in a rush, I feel like in a push, oh, that's not the divine. Like, that's the ego. And I really need to retrain the way I look at things. Like, if I want to push, oh man, you know, like Oprah always says, the integrity of the intention always comes back to you, right? So I'm like, shit, if I'm pushing this intention that's going to come back to me, no, then I have to change it, because that pushing energy doesn't feel good, as you say.
Yeah, and rushing doesn't feel good.
Right.
So
I have another question for you. So early on, you were actually talking about, I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to follow where it takes me. And so I have a question then to those people so then when is the decision that you make when you hire a coach and then you follow your passion? You know, I was just sharing with you that I got an email from this particular coach that she helped her client reach 7 figures in 4 years. I mean, it's nice, and it's something that I could feel this adrenaline rush in my body. Like, oh yes, I know, I want that in the next 4 years. But obviously it didn't trigger me enough to go hire her and work with her. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just talk about it, like, wow, you know, and fantasize about it. But it wasn't a trigger enough for me to go for it. So when do you actually hire a coach and follow step by step by step by step by step by step by step and follow your passion? Because we have done both. Right? And right now you are following your passion and not following that step by step.
Paint by numbers doesn't work.
Aha moment! Say that again, please.
Paint by numbers doesn't work.
Tell me more.
So just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And maybe sometimes having a step-by-step process does work, but I think, at least for me right now, I'm more interested in listening to my own inner guidance. So I'm more interested in working with the type of coach who can guide me, but also remind me that I'm an individual and I have my own intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I need to listen to that first, rather than always looking for the answer on the outside. We have our own wisdom, and sometimes, a lot of times, we forget to trust that. And anytime you're looking outside of you, you're really looking in the wrong place. Guidance is one thing, but to blindly follow somebody and think that what worked for them is going to work for us.
Oh, you know, this aha just came in. Like, I think if you're beginning, it's good to have a coach to learn the step by step, so that eventually you can lead by your soul can lead you to a certain part. And like what you said early on to me, which is true, like you shouldn't be obsessed and addicted to coaching just because everyone else is having a coach and you should have a coach. And what got to me is, if you feel like if you are stuck And if you need to get to the next level and you don't know how, this is the time to hire help to get you there.
Yeah.
Release, because otherwise you're in a codependent relationship with your coach and you always think you need a coach, and a good coach wouldn't want you to coach with her forever.
You're right. They'd want you to take the training wheels off at some point.
And then when fly and then come back again. I think that's what you're following. It's like you're not always constantly having a coach, which in the coaching industry, they always tell you always need a coach.
Yeah, let's get rid of the coaching addiction and have a coach when we need a coach. How's that?
Yeah. So your passion would then tell you, hey, you know what? It is time for you to get help because you don't know how to get there.
Yeah, it's like, so for example, if you're going off in a new direction where you do need some guidance, that would be a great time.
Yeah.
But to think, because I don't know about you, but there have been times when I've had a coach that at some point, it just didn't feel right anymore. Maybe they knew more than me, and maybe they didn't.
Or maybe you outgrew them.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Right. Yeah. So what happened to you when you actually felt like it's out of what in your own words, like out of alignment with you now? So what did you do at that point?
I had to do a lot of soul searching. It's not, here we go, being in a rush. It's not like you can always land on it immediately. So actually, I had to unplug, do the opposite of what we're told usually. I stopped, got rid of a lot of different email people that I was following online. I wanted to start listening to my voice rather than all these other voices telling me all these different things. And isn't it interesting that sometimes they tell you the complete opposite thing and then that just makes you crazy?
Yeah. Oh, you touched on something about unfollowing people online to find your voice. No, actually, to hear your voice.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why, I can coach people here. But that's one of the reasons why I like to take them to Bali. Get away from everything, your regular life, unplug the technology so you can actually hear your own intelligence. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then it is kind of a process of settling down a little bit so that all the voices start going away. I can start hearing my own wisdom. And then stuff started happening, one after another. Like something would come to me, even like the movie Wonder Woman was very amazing for me. I got so many different messages on so many levels about my own life from that movie. It may have no effect on somebody else, but I needed to see that movie because it had a lot for me. And then I would meet somebody and they had this little piece here, and I would meet somebody over here, they had this little piece here, and it was like boom, 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 boom. Finally.
Do you think we actually have everything figured out like in one moment? Because we live in an instant era. Instant gratification, instant food, instant karma, instant Wi-Fi. So I think that's the impatience that we want everything to fall in place in a moment. But what you were saying is that it's moment to moment.
You know what it's like? It's almost like without you knowing it, you're building this amazing airplane in a secret hangar. Ooh, and finally, when it's done, the doors open and the thing flies and it looks like it happened like that. But actually, there was a lot happening behind the scenes. So I think that it's always happening and there are things that we're not even aware of. But at some particular moment, it starts to coalesce and then we get that
the full picture.
We know.
So I want to ask another question. It's like when it comes to change, it can be so scary and paralyzing, right? And so what should we do with this?
Breathe. Yeah, seriously. Even just taking a couple breaths will calm you down because we can't make good decisions when we're frantic.
Totally.
Life is about change. Nothing stands still. And, I forget who said it, but somebody said if you don't like change, you're going to be unhappy. So it's going to happen no matter what. And I think it's important to be philosophical about it. Like one of my most important teachers, actually my spiritual master, said, everything happens for the best. And since she never lied to me and everything she said was true, I had to believe it. And so I always tell myself that. And somehow or another, it tends to work out that way. Even stuff that looks bad, like, for me, one of them was going through a divorce. Thank God, I'm so glad I'm not married to that person anymore. So what looks bad in the moment, we can't see what's out there in the future. So we can't really judge it. We just need to deal with it as best we can, knowing that we can get through it. It's making us stronger. We're learning lessons. We can use it in our teaching, right?
Yeah. So in that moment, what do you do besides breathing? Like, what is the next step? Because now you get this feeling, okay, I'm getting bored. This is not what I'm supposed to do. And this is where people get stuck because, like, I'm so afraid then I'll just, it's better to be unhappy but know what I know than to actually go the other way. And what if I fall flat on my face, right? So most people stay here. So
So the question is, your question is about when you need to actually make a change, but you're afraid to.
Have that awareness, right? Like, you were bored and that thing has been singing inside. And then how do you make that?
Okay, so part of it is that, let's see, how do I want to say this? I had the train of thought and I kind of lost it. Part of it is that I can't make it happen.
You can't make what happen?
Like if I'm knowing that what I'm doing isn't quite what I want to do, but I'm not sure what the next thing is, that it's the ego thinking that it's going to figure it out. We never figure anything out, right?
Oh, another tweetable. What do you mean by we'll never figure it out?
You don't need to. So the more that you relax and let it come to you rather than trying to force it. If you force it, it's probably going to have bad consequences. Like anytime I've forced myself to learn something because I thought it was good for me or somebody told me it was good for me, but I'm in my inner being, I'm resisting it, it doesn't work. So I really truly believe that we do have the answers.
How do you know whether is it resistance or sometimes you're just scared of the change? How do you tell the difference?
Wow, it kind of depends on the situation. Can you give me an example?
So what example were you saying where you're going to learn something, but everybody's saying, okay, so let's just take 7 figures, like we're on a, you should really do 7 figures, you should do this, like hire this, and then make, get the high-end clients and this and that.
Yeah.
So let's go with that.
I just tune into my body. If my body goes ick and it tenses up.
But the ego says, yes, we should do it. Yes, sometimes it's like, how excited we can be, but it's, at the end of the day, it's the ego that wants it. So in this case, usually it's the ego, like, 7 figures, like you should go for it. So how do you tell between this ego and your own resistance and being scared? Sometimes it's like the next level of change is necessary, but you're scared, but you resist it as well, that kind of thing. So how do you know?
It really, a large part of it is knowing myself. And really just tuning into myself rather than the chatter of the mind, rather than what's going on social media, what they're saying out there. I feel it. And if it makes me sick to my stomach, I don't care what they're saying. I know it's not good for me. It feels like poison.
So there's actually a different feeling between you're scared, even though it's
totally.
Good, right? Like it's good, but you're scared because it's getting you outside the comfort zone versus that yucky resistance. So I guess people will just have to feel it themselves to know the difference, isn't it? It's hard to explain.
Because that's why it's so important to know yourself. That's why it's said on the temple in Greece in the ancient times, know thyself. You have to be able to tune into yourself and know what's true for you and what feels good for you. which is why the paint by numbers step by step isn't for everybody. And so, yeah, the thing about fear, like people that go, I don't really ever want to go skydiving, but the people that want to, of course they're scared, but they want to do it. So if there's, if it's like,
this is a good example. Okay, so people tell you should go skydiving for, to experience it, but you know that it's not necessary for you and it's redundant and you don't want to do it for the sake of just because everyone else is doing, then don't do it. You don't have to prove a point, right?
No, unless I want to do it for some reason, why would I jump out of an airplane?
Yeah.
But there are things that I do love, like, I've traveled a lot in my life. I love going off around the world by myself. There are some people that would never occur to them. They'd be terrified. For me, it's just
traveling
something that
by yourself is scary. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
People get paralyzed by that.
And even, like putting on a retreat in Bali, there was something that was a little bit scary about that because I hadn't done it before. So yes, there was some fear, but fear and excitement are physiologically the same thing. So
that's a good example. Fear and excitement versus that resistance.
Yeah. I mean, like in Shakespeare's Hamlet, there's so much wisdom in that play. And one of the many famous lines in it is when I think it's Horatio says, if your mind dislikes a thing, listen to it. So if you know something doesn't feel good, you need to listen. You really need to listen.
Again, I have to borrow your thing about you got to know thyself to know which mind you are thinking out of. Is it the ego mind or is it your higher self mind?
Yeah. And that is so important to be able to distinguish between the two. So of anything that somebody needs to learn, how about that is number one? Because that you are always going to be with yourself. You're not always going to have your teacher next to you. You can't always call your teacher. You need to be able to turn inside and listen to the truth. Yeah,
it is so true with this, especially for those who are having codependent relationships. I realize that every time I get too close with a friend and I'm so dependent on her, like, I need your advice, boom, the friendship goes.
Yeah.
Like we had a fight or something. That's how you know the soul is really on your side. Like my lesson is really to learn to be independent and self-reliant. And I think a lot of people need to learn this because we always rely on somebody for advice and that, but we don't turn inwards and then we form these codependent relationships. And then when the job disappears, the client disappears, or the money goes, then you kind of like, oh shit, what am I going to do with myself now? I can't do anything. You're paralyzed.
Exactly. And that's been one of the big lessons for my life. I mean, over and over and
High
over.
Five. Me too.
High five. And, so it's not just even with people. This brings it back to the money and the 7 figures. How about just relying on ourselves rather than the 7 figures? We've got in ourselves whatever we need to succeed, to be happy and all that. We don't need to chase 7 figures. And the more we tune into ourselves, the 7 figures will probably show up and come to us in some way, shape, or form if we really need it.
You said something really crucial, which is chase. And that's what we're doing. Chasing the clients, chasing the love, chasing. We don't realize it, but it's chasing.
Yeah, let's not chase. How about let's bring to us?
How do we do that?
Oh! That's a great topic. So, okay, part of it is you just need to be what it is that you want.
So I've got a question, right? Because we're so conditioned. I know what your answer is, but for the sake of entertainment, like how do we know that want is our want? And it's not a brainwashed want, like 7 figures. You know what I mean? Like that job.
So you know my answer, right?
I know. I do.
You have to know yourself. Yeah.
Always, right? That goes to show it always comes back to full circle. You always need to know thyself.
Yeah. And part of how I know this is that there have been times like in Bali for once, and when I've been at my spiritual master's ashram, I can remember distinctly a time when I was on a retreat. I was in the middle of like not a good time in my life. But we had to get up early in the morning. It was 4 a.m. I was on a mountaintop staring at the moon, and all we got some little weak thing of tea and a stale piece of bread. And I was in bliss.
Oh, oh.
I was in bliss, not just happy, I was in bliss. So that told me it's not about money. It's not about having a big house. And I have nothing against those things. I love that. But it doesn't matter. I can be happy any place, anytime if I'm in the right state of mind.
Oh,
and that gives you a lot of power.
Right state of mind. How do we get to that right state of mind?
So, one moment, my cat's really bugging me, so I'm going to let him out. Hold on.
Okay.
So, meditation helps. Meditation's important, I think, because that can take you to a really deep state. Meditation, contemplation, anything that puts you in touch with your deepest self.
Like
that's
with
where
with the cat, like with your animals.
Yeah. So the more in touch you are with the deepest part of you, that's where your happiness is. It's not in the 7 figures. And if you're happy in your heart and in that space, 7 figures is great. You can do so much with it. You can have tons of happiness and bliss. You can also be happy if you don't have it.
That's true. You said something again. I mean, if you're happy, there is a ton you can do with the 7 figures. If you're unhappy, you will never do anything with your 7 figures but to hoard it and keep it just to make you happy.
And worry that it's going to disappear.
Yeah. Like the lottery winners, right?
Money is a big stress. People that have never had it think that 7 figures is going to solve their problem. Money comes with its own problems. So you need to just be a balanced, happy person no matter what.
Yeah, that's a good point. No matter what. So it starts with your state of mind, right? And I think a lot of us, our state of mind, it goes from state to state from crazy to crazier every single day. And I think like what you said, going back to the previous point that you said, going on social media is not that helpful. It does create some kind of, I don't know, body reaction triggers within yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It can make you, it's addictive. It's crazy. Yeah. No, that's not where you're going to find peace of mind. So, and this is why meditation is important. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is. But if you have a regular meditation practice and you can get into that deep state once a day, I'm going to have to put him outside. Then you're trained, you know how to get there.
Yeah.
And you can drop into that when you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not just about I sit here and I have 5 minutes of peace every day. It's to train you to be able to get to a peaceful place no matter what's going on.
So
meaning a state of happiness.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we have to train ourselves to get to that state of mind. It doesn't just happen. And through meditation, it can help you get to that state of mind.
I mean, it's actually a natural state. If we didn't live in the kind of crazy world that we do, we would probably be in that state all the time. But because we do live in a bit of a crazy world, then we have to train ourselves.
That's true.
It's it's a natural state.
That's a good point. It's a natural state, but it's also because we live in a world where everything is external. You know, you need external validation. You're nothing without this external thing. You're nothing without this success. Therefore, it is so essential for modern people who live in, modern era. Unless you live up in the mountains, right? But like us, city people, like most of us are city people, that we cultivate that state of mind.
Yeah, because then you can be walking around the city and being in that state, even if you're walking in a crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just be in bliss and notice the beauty rather than being in a rush and worried about everything. You can notice the color of the sun hitting that building. You can just really enjoy your life no matter where you are.
Yeah. I think the term enjoying your life, it's like if you're based on external factors, if you enjoy your life, then you need this blah, 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 blah before you can enjoy your life. Versus if you go inwards, you can enjoy your life right now by just appreciating the sun, the flower, and just appreciating whatever is going on with anything that's going around you. So enjoying life itself, perhaps like success, you need to give yourself a new definition.
I think being able to enjoy life from moment to moment is actually a very good definition of success. Because let's look at the 7-figure thing. 7 figures for what? So that you can go and buy your Gucci outfit. You're going to get like 5 minutes of satisfaction, and then after a very short time, that's not going to do it for you anymore, and you're going to want another one.
That's
right?
true. That's true. Temporary satisfaction.
Yeah. So why not carry the satisfaction around with you all the time, and then the rest is just the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. All right. Thank you, Jill, for joining us. And it's an enlightening conversation with money, peace, change. And I think there's so much changes going on in the world. People really need some kind of light at the end of the tunnel to guide them. How do we navigate ourselves in this crazy world we live in right now? I actually believe we live in one of the best times. Like there's, although there are wars going on, but in where you live now, and if you're watching this, you don't have wars going on in your country. It's probably very stable. You're not dying of hunger. You are clothed. Aside if you're not talking about if you're homeless, but if you actually have a home, regardless of how big or how small your house is, you still have a roof over your head. So, and we have the internet. That things are just going so great for us right now. That we live in such modern and exciting times, yet there's so much suffering happening at the same time, which is crazy.
Yeah, and we have, like with the internet, we have access to so much wisdom and knowledge to make ourselves happy. It's at our fingertips if we'll just do that instead of being always focused on chasing after the the latest thing.
Yeah, so we need to shift that perspective, right? We have all the information at our fingertips, but yet we're using those information to kill us slowly. So it's just like you said, you got to change your state of mind to really enjoy living in this great time where it's just amazing. But yet, we need to ask ourselves, why are we suffering, and why can't we actually enjoy our lives? And going back to what you said about simplifying your life, is not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, no. Actually, that makes for a really rich life.
Like oxymoron, but yes, right? Simple and rich.
Yeah. And I just will add before we sign off that a very wise person once told me that suffering is a choice.
Yeah, Buddha said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. But some people debate it. He may not say it, but regardless whether he said it or not, but it's kind of like true.
Yeah, because if you're suffering because you don't have the 7 figures, you don't need to suffer about that.
Self-inflicted. All right, so tell us, where can we find you?
Oh, okay. So you can find me at jillhendrickson.com. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com Jill Hendrickson author, or facebook.com Jill Hendrickson personal. Yeah, I would love to connect with people if this type of conversation is interesting. There's like a lot more. I'm going to be doing more Facebook Lives. I'm going to be doing more videos. I think it's a really important topic. I want to be happy. I would like to share that with as many people as possible, because the more happy people there are doing what they love, it's just going to make the world a better place, an even better place than it is.
It is. It is. Like your cat. It's so happy. Is it he or she?
It's a he. He's running around having a crazy time.
Yeah. So we should all go back to our natural state. All right. Thank you so much, Jill. And if you have any questions, send her an email, send her, connect with her, send her something, and then she'll be very happy to talk to you.
Yeah, info@jillhendrickson.com will get a question to me.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for watching. Be happy, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.